Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Larsen Live. It is June 20th, June 21st, I should say. Sorry, I got mixed up. I had Juneteenth off and got a little bit confused. I thought that the weekend had started, and yet it didn't. But hey, I can't dispute a day off, so I hope everybody's Juneteenth was okay. The name of the holiday seems oddly condescending, but never mind that. Anyway, we opened up with Danger on the Track by Europe, a song that I was convinced was in the soundtrack to The Road Warrior, but I looked it up and apparently it wasn't. It was in the movie Hot Rod, though, which I've never seen, but all the douchebags I went to high school with love that movie, so I've made damn sure to never watch it. Anyway, it seemed oddly appropriate because we're about to become warriors of the wasteland, thanks to the Ayatollah of rock and Rollah. Yes, stuff is popping off, shall we say, in the Middle East. You could substitute this stream for literally any other stream. There's always something popping off in the Middle East. However, that being said, it's serious. All that and whale hats coming soon. But, yes, apparently, not only is it bad enough that Israel and Iran are about to go to war if they're not already at war. Israel has launched some surgical strikes taking out Iran's general staff. Iran has launched missiles in response. Iran, of course, also funds Hezbollah and Hamas. Well, Hezbollah, I don't know about Hamas. It's a Sunni Shiite thing. And I guess they're now coming out front with it instead of doing it sneakily. I have always said that if you put a gun to my head, I would prefer dealing with the Persians than the Arabs, if only because the Persians at least have the common courtesy to stab you in the front. Looking at the comments, we see Robert Leonard saying good morning from Central Standard Time. I am, of course, in EST. The East Coast is the Beast Coast. Ponythroat correctly names Danger on the Track by Europe, as my wife groans silently, knowing that Ponythroat has made his presence known once again. Ponythroat also says in PT News, I sent a letter to my former manager's new employee exposing all the illegal things he did regarding employment law. Not only is this of no benefit to him, but it also has a non-zero chance of getting a man fired. Well, I mean, spite and vengeance are their own rewards, sir. Biff Slankovich says, hello. Shinseki Evan says, I thought you would open with Bomb Iran by Vince Vance and the Valiants. Oh, is that the song that John McCain loved to sing? A cover of Barbara Ann by the Beach Boys? Or was he just being a smartass? Yeah, there were a few things I was thinking about opening up the stream with. Something like We Don't Need Another War by Tina Turner, which is the theme song of Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome. Could have also taken any of the songs from Fury Road. Obviously Rock the Casbah was also a contender. It's always good. Because the Sharif does not like it. He doesn't like that Casbah sound. Anyway, people are trying to drag the United States into another Middle Eastern war. And I see nothing wrong with this. Greg Gutfeld on Fox News says we should push the backstory of history aside because Trump is trying to cut a deal with Iran. Gutfeld says we should forget about the disastrous events of Iraq and Afghanistan and technically Libya as well, even though Libya was a NATO thing. I believe the French were the biggest component of that one. But yeah, we were involved in that as well. Let's start fresh and just trust Trump in going to war with Iran. No. Let's not do that, sir. Let us not, in fact, go to war with Iran. Since it is the last week of school, I am actually showing my children The Man Who Would Be King with Sean Connery and Michael Caine. About a fifth of the class actually likes it, and the other four-fifths of the class are just, brap. I don't understand any movie that was made before the year 2000. Like, why is there not idiotic slop, gadding about on the screen? Like, why are these people just talking and sitting silently and having, slow pans over, the desert vistas? Well, if at least one student understands the message of that movie, which is to say that nation building and empire building and the white man's burden are really stupid and you shouldn't do it, then I will have done my job as an educator. Many other people are also not into this idea of going to war with Iran. So says at C Vitalist on the Zitters. Let's have a fresh start, guys. Forget the last 20 years. He then posts the very infamous picture of the young Marine sergeant who looks like Nemesis from Resident Evil 3 standing next to his bride, who married him purely out of obligation when he came back, burnt to hell. Yeah, fun fact. The woman was with him for 2 years, and she divorced him, probably due to the stress of, being married to Nemesis. And then he killed himself with an overdose of painkillers. I laugh and make Three Stooges noises because the reality of it is deeply depressing, and making dark jokes about it is the only thing that keeps me from slamming my head through the plate glass window in front of me. Yeah, let's just go to war with another Middle Eastern country, because that's been going great. We've been at war continuously since 2001, and I see nothing wrong with this. Everything's been going great. I mean, America's stronger than ever. I mean, everything's been going great since America was essentially forced into being, the big power in the world. And yes, I do say we were forced into it since everybody else just fucked off and, pranced around with their precious healthcare while we had to do the dirty work. But, can we, not do this? Come on, bro, just trust us, man. It's just another war in the sandbox. Come on, bro. And, of course, Greg Gutfeld is a boomer who would never be drafted. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. And this was actually a proposed amendment at one point, but it got shot down in the House, which is unfortunate. Basically, the idea was that anybody who advocates for war should be immediately drafted into frontline combat infantry service. Let's check out some comments. Robert Diaz says, burning down the house works. Robert Leonard says, great movie, referring to the man who would be king. Yeah, if I had more time, I would have... So basically my idea was, since the last unit of school is the War on Terror, I wanted to compare all the various invasions of Afghanistan. The ones in recent memory. Sorry, Alexander the Great stands. So I watched a documentary on the invasion of Afghanistan, which is from CNN. It didn't go as hard as I would have liked. I mean, there was a documentary I saw on YouTube about the Baka-Bazi issue in Afghanistan, but I decided, maybe I shouldn't show the children in school a documentary about organized pederasty in Afghanistan. I don't want to get fired. I just got my contract renewed. So yeah, then I was going to compare the American invasion of Afghanistan to the British invasion of Afghanistan with the man who would be king. And then right as I started watching The Man Who Would Be King, I remembered that there is in fact an excellent movie about the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, The Beast of War, which I should have watched, but yeah, that'll be for next year. I'm going to compare the British and Russian Afghanistan invasions. But yes, Man Who Would Be King, fantastic movie. I try to convey to the kids that this is in fact one of the greatest movies of all time. They don't really feel that way. I tried to tell them, hey, look, it's Michael Caine. He played Alfred in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. But I think we're like 6 new Batmans deep, so I don't even know if these kids have seen the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. I also mentioned that Sean Connery is, of course, the first man to play the cinematic James Bond, and that kind of got a dull reaction, so I don't know if the kids are familiar with that. But yeah, it's a good movie. Okay. Pony Throat, sardonically taunts my wife. Daphne thought the horse was turned to glue, but he's just sleeping in the stable. Pointy Throat says Brappies probably think Epic movie was funny. I mean, if I was going to watch a spoof movie in my class, I'd do something good. Like, I'd make them watch, like, Airplane or, like, Naked Gun or something. Bishankovich says, let's wait for the 2-week drill. Not sure what you're referring to, sir. Pointy Throat said, never thought he would marry so young or extra crispy, referring to Tyler Ziegel. I shouldn't keep saying that the guy looks like Nemesis from Resident Evil 3, but my God, he looks exactly like Nemesis. Like Nemesis in a Marine dress uniform. It's very depressing. But again, I make these sardonic jokes because the reality is too upsetting otherwise. Stars. Ponythroat says, I feel like Trump's unconditional support for Israel is not as universal in his voter base as it had been under Bush. Oh yeah, I definitely see that. I mean, to an extent, I feel like Trump maybe doesn't want to go to war. I mean, the evangelicals, of course, want to. Speaking of that, you guys, I don't know if you checked out the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz interview, where Ted Cruz was just spewing dispensationalism all over the place. Ian Kempster says, I started the Mike Menser program today. Short but intense. More news coming in the following months. Good job, sir. Mike Menser is he's a good man. Also a master archer, which has nothing to do with bodybuilding, but I thought that's kind of interesting. Alpha Marigi clarifies that we're just 2 Batman movies deep plus Lego since the Nolan trilogy. Really, are we? I mean, you got The Batman, like the Robert Pattinson ones. And then you have, don't you have like the Snyderverse with Ben Affleck? So that's like 4 Batmans. Then you have the Lego Batman, and I think there's some animated ones too. And I don't know, look, I like Batman, but can we maybe cool it for a few years? Just let it settle. Let the nostalgia kick in, and then revive it. Oh, I see the confusion, Alpha Marie. I was referring to Batmen as different movies. There was 5 movies, but there's been only 2 new Batmen since. I see you were referring to the men playing. Alpha Marie says I listed 2 and that's 4. Wait, well, what about Batman versus Superman and the Justice League movie? That's Affleck. And then there's the Robert Pattinson movies. So isn't that 4? It's 4 movies, but 2 different Batmen. The League of Associated Bat Persons. Isn't that what they're doing nowadays in the comics? There's multiple Bat people. Not including Man-Bat. Yes, there's a Batman and Man-Bat, much like there's a Spider-Man and a Man-Spider. Ian Kempster says, I'm hoping the Minecraft movie is going to be lit. Yeah, I have no interest in seeing that. I've never played Minecraft. Alpha Maria says, wasn't there only one Patterson movie? I thought there were 2. Or maybe there was 1, but I think they're making another one now, so there will be 2. I don't know. Alpha Marigi says, James Bond was fumbled like Looney Tunes. Yes. Albert Leonard says, I should probably do a no-hold-barred analysis of Mike Menser. I mean, I didn't know that he was... I mean, I know he used steroids. I didn't know he was using meth as a pre-workout. I still feel like it's a bit ridiculous for me, a public school teacher who works out for fun, to criticize a Mr. Universe bodybuilder. Okay, Ponythroat says, I bought a rice cooker and have lost weight from eating memesotil white rice and nothing else. Ponythroat also found out that garlic, pork fat, and rice cooked in beef bouillon left to ripen in 90-degree heat on my desk for 20 hours smells repulsive. Why would you do that, sir? Yeah, please throw out your food stuffs. Hey. Alf Rodriguez says apparently the second one is coming out in 2027. That's 5 years after the first one. That's taking their time. Yes, 2027 is also when this alleged Legend of Zelda movie is going to come out. But, yeah, we'll see that. We'll see if that happens. I mean, we'll get back to the news in a second, but, we got to talk cinema. I mean, I did see some news that one of the staff members on the Zelda movie is some hatchet-faced woman with horn-rimmed glasses, so that's a swift kick in the dick. Robert Diaz says Batman is also public domain in 2035, so that plenty of Batmen will exist then. Yeah, well, obviously the first one we'll get is some shitty slasher horror movie about Batman. When instead what we should get, and I'm really hoping somebody will pick up this torch, is like a, Art Deco 1930s Batman. Kind of like what Tim Burton did. Yeah, I'll say it. The perfect Batman movie would be sort of like the story and characterization of the Nolan Batman movies with the art direction and visuals of the Burton Batman. That would be like the perfect Batman movie. Pony Throat says, Die Another Day was also like Looney Tunes in terms of physics and writing. Yeah, that was a shithole. Shit heap, I should say. But yeah, anyway, all this movie news aside, no, I don't think we should be going to war with Iran. Not at all. And of course, it's some boomer who wants really hard to not, he wants to go to war while he himself does nothing of the sort. We really are ruled by absolute pigs in this country. And speaking of, as if it wasn't bad enough that the American government's ruining the rest of the world, or should I say the third world, I mean, we coddle the rich countries to an absurd degree. They're also dicking over our own country. There are proposals from Trump and also a Senator Mike Lee. Yeah, let's just sell off the national parks. We have so much land, we want to put it to use. We're going to have land release on that land. We're going to build housing. Yeah, we're going to build housing in Yellowstone and Hetch Hetchy and, Yosemite and the Great Dismal Swamp. I cannot begin to tell you how against this I am. First of all, how does it make any sense to build housing in a national park? There's no businesses there. There's no roads there. Yeah, good luck connecting to the global economy in your log cabin in, Yosemite Valley, John Muir. I mean, unless you are, in fact, telling us to, revive the Homestead Act. In which case, I can think of a few other places in this country that should be homesteaded. Occasionally you'll hear talk of quote-unquote urban homesteading, which, honestly, that I think would be much better than destroying the national parks. But no, let's not sell off the national parks. Yeah, I'm sure that, I'm sure this is what Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir wanted, to just sell off the national parks to, corporations and BlackRock and the Chinese government. Yes, the memes abound. Showing, Hugh Glass. I didn't get mauled by a bear and drag myself 200 miles through Apache-filled wilderness just to sell off this patrimony to BlackRock. Hugh Glass. Another meme, Davy Crockett at the Alamo. If we fight really hard, boys, we can sell off this land to a corporation someday. And so on and so forth. The trees cannot be harmed if the Lorax is armed. Yes. I know some people are saying, Oh well, it's not the national parks. Just other federally owned land. You're setting a precedent. I mean, yes, I think Senator Mike Lee and Trump, for that matter, because I guess Trump is swinging back to the stupid side of his, idiot savant attitude, where sometimes he says sensible things and sometimes he says stupid things. Yes, they should be mocked and bullied relentlessly for this. Are there any necromancers in my stream? Perhaps you could revive Theodore Roosevelt to punch these guys in the face furiously. We need more Teddy Roosevelts and less, corporate whores. Ponethorn says public domain is where characters go to die. Sometimes, yes. I mean, there's plenty of god-awful, like, public domain, Wizard of Oz things out there. But, corporate ownership is not necessarily a guarantee either. Look at what happened with Tolkien. Alpha Marigi says, I think when Superman goes public domain, someone should do a movie where Lex Luthor destroys the internet. That would explain mass surveillance not discovering Clark and Supes in the paper mattering. Or you could just, set it in the 1930s. Which I've always said, I always liked the kind of like 1930s, period superhero movies. Alternatively, you could do a Superman movie where Lex Luthor, fills Metropolis with kryptonite fog and traps Superman in a virtual world. He has to fly through rings and, stuff to save the day. No, Superman 64, you will never not be funny. Shinseki Evans says, if you deport illegal immigrants, you get a lot of housing freed up. Yes, or you could, urban homestead and allow people to sort of, build Fort Apache in, downtown Baltimore. Alpha Mariga says, embrace free market capitalism by selling our country out to the Chinese Communist Party. Yes. It's funny that you think we're a capitalist country. We're not. We're corporate serfdom, essentially. Porthos says, I'm only a necromancer when it comes to fishing meals out of the garbage. I would really hope you don't do that, sir. Alpha Marigi says, making a 1930s film set is more expensive. Well, yeah, but, it would be, better. God forbid you put a little effort and quality into your movie. So, yes, if I ever see Senator Mike Lee, I will throw a brick at him. Yeah, I don't care what anyone says. Like, it's... he deserves it. So what else do we have going on here? It's funny that we're talking about, old cinema and, like, the Art Deco aesthetic. We'll get to that in a little while. Let's see what else we have going on in the news. Okay, let me just open up a few of my bullet points here. Okay. In Spain, there's been some stuff going down. There are anti-tourist activists spraying people with super soakers filled with something. I'm going to presume not water, perhaps cat urine. Kieran Kelly writes a piece from Barcelona. Spain, the people of Barcelona really just despise, Anglo tourists, German tourists, American tourists, and English tourists. Curiously, they don't seem to be nearly as animated about the literal Reconquista going on in their country. The Saracen is openly calling for the reconquest of all Andalus. But no, the real villains here are, German tourists wearing socks and sandals. But, you know, it's okay to hate foreigners with a violent passion as long as they're white people. I mean, look, tourists can be annoying, certainly. But, I mean, by definition, a tourist does go home. So it's like, yeah, tourists go home. They're going to go home, sir. You know, I always have debated, like, going on that website I found a long time ago and buying, like, old haciendas in Spain, but I'm going to reconsider. They would not be happy with me. Okay. Point says Superman 64, a fairly successful game in terms of sales. Well, I mean, the Atari 2600 ET game was technically successful in terms of sales. Doesn't mean it's not a pile of shit. Okay. And, you know, from what I've heard, like, British tourists are just really insufferable. They're like, they go to Latvia dressed up as Smurfs and they'll just, like, go on, like, pub crawls and just be a pain in the ass. But if that's the worst thing you have in your life, you should consider yourself very lucky, all things considered. Okay. Going back to the United States now. Oh, actually, no. Speaking of Europe again. Remember how last week I talked about how French mademoiselles are buying piggies to fend off the Saracen? Yes, well, apparently Italian signorinas are also doing the same thing. They're getting hassled by, you know, a unpleasant minority of people, and they're buying pigs to fend them off. Again, I believe dogs are also haram, so I think that'll be a lot easier to manage. You know, a 200-pound Cane Corso or Pit Bull, while certainly tough to deal with, especially if you're a young lady. I mean, I would assume it's easier to deal with than some, like, 500-pound, you know, Duroc or, like, Westhamshire, you know, hog. But, you know, that's just me. What do I know about raising pigs? I know nothing. Going back to the United States, something shocking has happened with regards to these ICE raids, which, again, you know, I think they're a bit overzealous. They've undoubtedly, you know, rounded up some people who don't need to be rounded up. But something positive did happen. A city in Nebraska went through the state's largest worksite immigration raid. Omaha, Nebraska, once, you know, ICE raided and, you know, took a bunch of people away from, you know, grueling labor jobs like meatpacking. It turns out that every seat in the waiting area of Glen Valley Foods was occupied within the week. Actually, no, 2 days after the meatpacking plant was raided, gasp, American citizens of all colors signed up for those jobs. Wow, you mean that Americans are willing to, you know, do grueling blue-collar jobs that they're being paid decent wages and not treated like shit? Wow. I also recall, I think I talked about it once like a year ago, a construction company in New York actually paid good wages, and le gasp, American citizens took those jobs. Turns out that Americans do want to do those jobs. And, yeah, perhaps there's another reason why everybody's so adamant about keeping the illegal immigrants around. Could it be, in fact, that they want to have a, you know, semi-literate serf class of, you know, slave laborers? Yeah, I think that's it. You know, I should point out that meatpacking used to be a skilled trade, like a skilled middle-class union job, but then they deliberately subverted it, you know, mechanized it, and made it so, you know, illegals could do it. And, yeah, quality went down. I mean, I'm not entirely shocked, since, you know, I'm an American citizen. I've done plenty of bitch work in my life. Now, of course, I will admit I stopped doing bitch work because I have better options. But you know what? Not everybody's going to be an academic. Not everybody's going to be, an entrepreneur. Some people are meant to just do bitch work, so I think they should get paid a decent wage to do it. Oh no, we're gonna not have our slave laborers. Wow, you mean that if you take away some of the potential labor force, it increases the demand for labor, so you increase the wages? You mean supply and demand works? You mean the invisible hand works? You mean Adam Smith is not a complete moron? Yes, it sure seems that way. Hey, got some interesting science stories to talk about. I mentioned whale hats. Yes, 37 years ago, orca whales were observed wearing dead salmon on their heads. Then it went away, and now it's back. Whale hats are back. The orca whales are wearing dead salmon on their heads. So asks Raw Egg Nationalist, what does this mean? Yes, that is curious. What does it mean? Could it be that the whales have fashion trends and influencers, finfluencers, just like humans? Perhaps. I mean, I am genuinely curious as to what the fashion industry is like in, amongst the whales. Like, is the whale fashion industry, in fact, run by, drug-taking women and misogynistic gay men or gay whales? I don't know. Yes, Mr. Shamu, what do you think of the fashion industry? And then he would just bellow and grunt at me for a bit. At Panta MMA says, I have no idea, but they're doing it on purpose. Yes. Somebody thinks that the bull whales are trying to attract the cow whales by looks maxing. Some people think it's just a way to bait in sharks to eat, as orca whales are pretty much the only marine life that eats sharks. Perhaps. Personally, I like to think that whales have a fashion industry. And, whales do have some kind of culture. Like, they sing different songs and things. They've been observed, like, playing. Dolphins have been observed, like licking pufferfish to get high. So they have a drug culture as well. So it might just be bait, but I really like to believe that the whales have a fashion industry. And I presume that the next generation of orcas will think this is really lame, and then they'll do something else. Maybe they'll take some kelp and make leisure suits or something. Let's check out some comments here. Ponythroat says, you're being unfair. They don't just hire illegals because they can pay them less. Stumbling over my words. They also hire them because they have no legal rights and they can threaten them with deportation. Well, yes, of course. I mean, the most noble thing that an American citizen can do is have a non-legal class of, hard-laboring brown people. That's the key here. Ian Kessler says, I have to do bitch work now. COVID did suck. I got to pay bills. I got a ton of cardio working in the warehouse. Hey, there's no shame in it, sir. Like I've worked in warehouses, I've done construction, moving, I've worked in kitchens. There's no shame. I will personally say that COVID helped me out since COVID closed up my bitch work that I was doing. I was working on a laundromat. Then, now that I was out of that and I was getting, government stimmy checks, I was capable of getting my shit in gear and getting a better job. Pony Throat says, whales do have fashion trends. It was those pants that said juicy on them. Are you a time traveler from 2005, sir? I mean, I know that land whales don't really have the best fashion sense, but is anybody wearing those like velour tracksuits anymore? That's like some crap they were doing when I was in high school. Ian Kempster says, my paycheck is 40% less, but I manage. It's not what you make, it's how you manage it. Yeah, also, cutting down on expenses will help with that. Abusive letters to sabotage my former manager's career. I'm going to throw a keg of it through the... Yes, let's see if there's any more information. It's a hunting strategy or a fashion thing. But anyway, speaking of mysteries, yes, a 30-million-year-old lost Rice Burroughs was right. It's like a petrified forest or something. Ass. Why do you think 50 ice while you go to the magical land? Which, there's a lot of undersexed. So the first news story I wrote down for my article, specific Pellucidar lost under the ice that indicate that it was landscapes, and so on and so forth. And then, the whole thread is just full of morons, waving the Piri Reis map around, and, there's a Pellucidar and so on. Well, I don't want to... Maybe. Yeah, let's hope this is working. Because everything sucks. Yeah, I'm just... The chat. Yeah, so... How... And a lot of people are... Well, and then you breach, and then you get to the land women out there in the world who are... Scans between their legs. They'll be doing these in the summer. I have a couple of silly things to talk about. I find my wife unattractive. Her face, lip fillers, a neck lift, other stuff. Hey. She started crying. I love her, but her face... He hit a, break a Reddit post about a guy who wife due to lots of... Am I the asshole for telling my girl he and his girlfriend are big movie buffs? Mannerisms of Katharine Hepburn. I tried to tell her, but she just... A guy... 1930s transatlantic style. I would talk like James Cagney or Humphrey Bogart or someone like that. A man got everything he wanted, and he turns out... Yes, as the children say, let her cook. So yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. Okay, I guess we're doing this because everything sucks. Yeah, so I am... Yeah, I'm just going to record what I have to say and respond to the chat and then edit it together. Yeah, so basically, Pony Throat was correct. I was talking about undersexed flat earthers. I was talking about how the, there's fossil evidence of, a temperate era in the Antarctic. And a lot of people are, being really conspiratorial about it, which is, of course, true because the Antarctic is, there's the ice wall, and then you breach, and then you get to the land of fairies and hobbits and elves and goblins and such. And I think we should explore it, because there's a lot of undersexed women out there in the world who are going a bit insane because they don't have access to, Fey Lords with giant hogs. So, if we can get them access to, elf lords with Pringles cans between their legs, they'll be happy, and then they can finally stop ruining things. Yeah, so it turns out there will be a scripted video after all. I will actually be doing these in the summer, but, that's, all the news in science. Okay, we have a couple of silly things to talk about. Like on Reddit, there were a couple of beefs. Like, a man posts, "Am I the asshole for being truthful and admitting that I find my wife unattractive after plastic surgery? It was not my decision, I had no say. She looks weird now. She had the buccal fat sucked out of her face, lip fillers, a neck lift, other stuff I don't get. She looks like a plastic sex doll now, with the uncanny valley. It freaks me out. Hey, when I have sex with her, I turn the light off. It's been a few months, I dread looking at her. She's noticed this. She asked me if I was having an affair. I'm not. And I'm truthfully not. She kept digging. I told her the truth. She started crying about the surgery. She needed to go with her sister. I try not to say anything. I can't force myself to find her attractive. I love her, but her face is weird now. She looks like the blue alien from The Fifth Element. Yeah, so basically, what happened is the guy, his mother-in-law and sister-in-law are, plastic surgery freaks, and, they had to talk about it. They're going to try to, they're not going to break up. They're going to stop talking to the family, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah, so you're all hearing things kind of, sporadically. I am talking about a Reddit post about a guy who found himself unattracted to his wife due to lots of plastic surgery. So I guess I'll just tell you what I'm saying. Alright, so, there's that. And then finally, there's another Am I the Asshole post, which I found very, very funny. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend that her using her accent in public alienates people from her? What accent? A transatlantic accent. Basically, he and his girlfriend are big movie buffs. They watch a lot of classic 30s and 40s movies. My girlfriend has all of a sudden started imitating the speech patterns and mannerisms of Katharine Hepburn. The transatlantic accent. She's using it in public. It's weirding people out. It makes her seem somewhat entitled. I tried to tell her, but she just ignores me. Am I the asshole? No, sir, you're... Well, actually, no, I take that back. You are the asshole, sir. Let me just post in the chat what I'm yakking about. A guy discusses his girlfriend Hepburn maxing, and I feel he should embrace it. Yes, I discussed this with my wife, and we agreed that if my wife came in one day and she started, talking like a 1930s transatlantic style, I would lean into it whole hog. I would wear three-piece suits, and I'd talk like James Cagney or Humphrey Bogart or someone like that. Isn't this what you want, sir? You're a fan of classic cinema. You said so. Like this is what you want. You're living the dream, and you can't handle it. A man got everything he wanted, and it turns out that he's not good at it. Yes, as the children say, let her cook. So yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. This text-only stream was a bit silly, but I had to say it. Ponythroat says her wife is feeling the burn. Ooh yeah, that's the Macho Man Randy Savage, sir. Yeah, so this has been a strange stream. YouTube got shitty, but I'll make it work. So, for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.